Ma'am, recording started.
Yes, sir. Yes. Thank you, sir. Namaste. Today we would be starting with the 40th Sutra of the Samadhi Pada. The sutra talks about the result of the meditation that we have seen in the previous sutra, sutra number 39. And all that accrues from the other methods that are given from sutra number 31 to 39. So the result of meditation is Parama Anu, Paramanu, Parama Mahatva Anta, Parama Mahatva Anta, Asya Vashikaraha. So what this means is Parama Anu. Parama Anu is starting from the minutest particle, which is an atom. Okay, Parama Anu is the minutest particle, which is the atom, up to the ultimate magnitude or the size. So that is Parama Mahatva. Okay, Parama Mahatva is up to the ultimate size, ultimate magnitude, starting from the minutest atom to the ultimate magnitude or the size of the object, extending up to that point. Okay, Asya Vashikaraha, of this the yogi can get mastery or control. Okay, so what is the result of meditation? The result of meditation is such that the yogi who has mastered the practices suggested in the previous sutras, the techniques suggested in the previous sutras, will be able to get mastery and also control of the minutest particle, which is the atom, up to the greatest or the ultimate size, the biggest object. So that is what is being said in this sutra. He'll be able to control even the smallest and also the largest object. So as I said, the previous sutra, we understood that it spoke about the preparatory practices and the purifications that are needed for the mind, right? So after having done all those purificatory and the preparatory practices, this sutra now states that the final result of those practices, which is total mastery and control, vashikaraha. So the yogi will be able to get a total control of the object that he is trying to contemplate or concentrate upon. It could be the minutest particle, like an atom, or it could be an object which is of the highest magnitude. Be it any kind of object, the yogi will be able to get a complete control and mastery of that. That is Vashikaraha. Vashikara means being in control, like getting control of that. So the yogi will be able to get control of that object. Now, these purificatory practices of the mind, what do? They help in settling the mind down until all the obstacles are overcome. Right? We have seen that Patanjali Rishi has suggested a lot of practices, starting from Ekatattva Abhyasa to cultivating opposite virtues to dwelling on the aspects of the mind, the subtler aspects of the mind, and also from the knowledge that one accrues from the sleep and the dream state. All these aspects, whatever accrues from these purificatory practices, so the mind learns to settle down until all the obstacles are overcome. When the mind becomes settled, it would no longer encounter even physical obstructions such as hunger and thirst. All these interruptions, which are the interruptions to samadhi, will be gone. So that is the state of control that the yogi would get. Okay, so whenever the yogi chooses, his mind remains settled indefinitely. Like he can have a complete control of his mind whenever he wishes. That is Vashikara. Now, you might be thinking, are Vashikara and Vairagya the same? No. Vashikara is getting the mastery and control of something, whereas Vairagya is becoming dispassionate. Okay, becoming dispassionate towards something. So please remember the difference between Vashikara and Vairagya. Here, the yogi is getting a complete mastery or the control of a certain aspect. Okay, as the yogi gets this mastery over his mind and the object that he's concentrating or contemplating upon, the yogi would have total control of that. Okay, so the examples could be like he might have he might be contemplating on Akasha, which is the greatest among the five elements, which are the gross elements, Mahabhutas. And he might also be able to get a control on the Mahat, which is the first evolute of the Prakriti. Mahat is nothing but the Buddhi. Or the Asmita. Asmita is among the objects of Sampragnata Samadhi. We have seen that, right? Of the objects of Sampragnata Samadhi, we have seen that Asmita is an evolute, right? Which is associated with Buddhi. So any of these objects can be contemplated upon, and the yogi can gain mastery of these objects. Okay, is that clear? Is this aspect clear? So this is the result of the meditation that the yogi has done. He can gain mastery or control of Parama Anu or Parama Mahatva. Yeah. So Vashikara is getting the control or mastery. That is what this sutra says. Any doubt in this? Before I proceed with the next sutra? Okay, it's clear. Yeah. So I repeat the sutra once again. Parama Anu, Paramanu, Paramanu, Parama Mahatvanta Asya, Paramanu, Parama Mahatvantasya, Vashikaraha, Paramanu, Parama Mahatvantosya, Vashikaraha. So the yogi will get a mastery, complete mastery or control of any object that he is contemplating upon, be it a minutest atom or the greatest object, the biggest object, which is very high in magnitude, like Akasha, which is the greatest among the five elements. So he has the capability now to get mastery of any of this. That is what is said in Sutra number 40. This is the result of the meditation. Please remember that. Now going to Sutra number 41. Sutra number 41 says that it's the merging of the chitta with the object. Now you have to understand this is a little bit tricky. Today I'll not be able to use the whiteboard or the jam file to help you in understanding. I thought I should be able to explain you with a little bit of diagram and representation of what is grahitra, grahana and grahyeshu. But nevertheless, because today we don't have that opportunity, I would try and help you to understand. If I'm not clear today, we'll try to repeat the sutra again tomorrow, because this is a very, very important sutra. Okay, it talks about three different aspects: grahitra, grahana, and grahyeshu. So we'll understand about these three aspects. So here the mind, the chitta, the mind field is merging with the object that it is contemplating on. Remember, chitta is merging with the object that it is contemplating upon. It could be any object. So in the meditation practices that lead to samadhi, we have seen that anything, the starting from the gross objects, going towards the subtler and even subtler and reaching up till prakriti, one can contemplate on any of these aspects, objects, right? So this is the chitta merging with the object. How does it happen? Kshina vritte abhijatasyeva maner grahitra grahana grahyeshu tatstat tadanjanata samapattihi. So kshina vritte means the person whose vrittis have subsided. So this yogi's vrittis, the fluctuations that are going on in the mind, have all been subsided. Kshina vritti. Abhijatasya. So as a result of that, the mind field is being purified. Okay, because of the purification of the mind field, the vrittis have subsided. Like what? Iva is like money. Money is what? A gem or a crystal, something like a diamond. Okay, so like a diamond. Now, why is he using the example of diamond? We'll understand that in a little bit. Now, he's giving the example of money because money has the ability to reflect whatever object is placed closer to that money. It is able to reflect that object through it, isn't it? So if we place an object which is bright in color, like a bright red rose, in very close proximity to a crystal, what happens? The color of that flower is completely reflected on the crystal, right? The crystal looks red, isn't it? So he's giving crystal which is having the property of reflecting the object which is in close proximity of it. Why? Because he's talking about three different aspects. Those three different aspects are grahitra, grahana, and grahyeshu. So what is this grahitra? Grahitra is nothing but the one who grasps. Who is the one who's grasping? The cognizer. Okay, the cognizer. Whoever is cognizing. Here you imagine that to be the buddhi. Okay, the buddhi is the grahitra. Grahana is the instrument for grasping. What are the instruments for grasping? It could be any of your sense organs, the jnanendriyas, the karmendriyas, and the mind, the lower mind. And grahyeshu, grahya. What is the grahya aspect here? The objects which are grasped by the sense organs or the instruments. The objects could be anything that my sense organs are looking at. It could be any object. It could be an idol. It could be a cow. It could be a pot. It could be anything. All these are the objects. Could be gross or even subtle. Okay. So these objects are called grahya. Okay, I repeat this once again. Grahitra is the cognizer or the one who grasps. Okay, he's the one who experiences it. Grahana is the instrument that is used for grasping. What could be the instrument used for grasping? It could be the jnanendriyas, the karmendriyas, the mind, anything that is used for grasping the knowledge of something. These are called as grahana. And grahyeshu. Grahyeshu is given in the sutra, but grahya is nothing but the object. Grahya means the object. So the object that is to be grasped is called grahya. Okay, write it down once again for the people who are not clear with it. I repeat it once again because this is really, really important. You need to understand this. Grahitra is the one who cognizes or grasps the concept. Here you can think that to be the buddhi. Okay. Grahana. Grahana is the instrument. The instruments that are used for the process of grasping. The instruments could be the gross elements which relate to the karmendriyas, jnanendriyas, or the mind. Okay, and grahyeshu, which is nothing but you can write it as grahya, that which is having something to be grasped. The objects that can be grasped or are called grahyeshu. Okay, the objects which can be grasped are called grahyeshu. Grahitra, the cognizer or the one who grasps. Grahana, the instruments used for grasping. Grahyeshu, the objects that need to be grasped. These three. Tat Sat. Tat means becoming stable on those aspects. Stable on what? The objects of grasping. Okay, becoming stable on them. Tad anjanata, merging with them by taking the color of the object that is in close proximity. Tad anjanata, which means merging with the object. Okay, merging with the object. Tatstha means becoming stable on those objects. By becoming stable on those objects, tad anjanata, which means merging with those objects. For example, by taking the color of the object that is in close proximity. That is samapattihi. What is that? That process is called samapattihi, the aspect of merging. The aspect of merging is called samapattihi. I repeat this once again. Kshina vritti. Kshina vritti is the yogi whose vrittis have subsided. Abhijatasya, of being purified. So the yogi's vrittis, after having been purified, like Iva is like Mane, the crystal. So the yogis' vrittis have all subsided because of the process of purification, just like the crystal, just like the crystal. So where grahitru grahana grahyeshu. So becoming stable on these aspects, that's becoming stable on them, tadanjanata, merging with them. So by taking the color of the object that is in close proximity leads to samapattihi. Samapattihi is the aspect of coalescence, which is nothing but merging. So all these three aspects look like one. Okay, the crystal starts to take the color of the object which is placed in close proximity to it. So which is nothing but the sense of merging, right? So that is what this particular sutra says. So when the vrittis have all subsided, the mind stability and merging with the grahitra, the mind's stability and merging with the grahitra. Okay, what will the mind merge with? So we are talking about leading the practices leading towards samadhi, right? So, towards asampragnata samadhi. What is asampragnata samadhi? Where all the vrittis have ceased and the purusha, and one is able to dwell or reside in the purity of the purusha. So that is the objective of yoga. Now, during this process, when all the vrittis have subsided, the mind is becoming stable. It is able to merge with the grahitra, which is the purusha. Okay, the process and instruments of merging, which are the grahana, and the objects, which is the grahya. So when the mind is able to merge with the grahitra, the purusha, the process and instrument of merging, which is the grahana, and the object of merging, which is the grahya. So this whole process is called as samapattihi. Okay. Now, I told you, Grahitru, you can give the example of, now in this case, you can give the example of Purusha, but I will explain the qualities of Purusha. Purusha is nothing, nowhere related to evolutes of Prakriti. It has its own characteristics, which are very, very different from Prakriti. But for now, because we have to reflect on the pure consciousness, the Grahitru, the aspect of cognizer, or the one who grasps, you can take that as Purusha. Grahitra is Purusha. Grahana are our senses. Senses are nothing but the jnanendriyas. Okay. Grahya. the objects or the elements that that relate to the contemplation aspect, which are also called as alambanas or supports that we have learned. So when the mind field is colored by an object of meditation, take for example, one is meditating on a cow. Okay, the mind field appears to take on the form of that object. So please understand, this is a little bit tricky, but if you try to carefully listen, you'll be able to understand. So here, what is the mind trying to do? The mind is trying to merge with that object. When the mind field is purified like a crystal, the mind field is colored by an object of meditation. That is when it can be colored by an object of meditation. Then the mind field appears to take on that form of the object. So the sutra in essence emphasizes that the grahitra samapattihi, which is the samapatti related to the cognizer's aspect. It is giving more importance to the cognizer's aspect. Okay, so the mind field is colored by that aspect. By what? By the purusha aspect. Here, if you take the mind field, because buddhi, you know, is very close to the purusha, right? It is in very close proximity to the purusha. Now, because of that proximity, what happens? The reflection of the purusha is seen in the buddhi, right? And the buddhi starts to take on the form of purusha. Okay, so that is what the sutra is trying to explain. So the reflection of Purusha is seen in the Asmita. The reflection is not exactly of the Purusha, which is the supreme the consciousness, the pure consciousness. Because Purusha, as I told you, has different characteristics. It can't be used as an evolute anywhere which belongs to Prakriti. It has its own characteristics. It's not depending on the Prakriti in any way. Purusha is considered to be ever free. Okay, Purusha is that pure consciousness principle. Okay, pure consciousness principle, where we have learned that the reflection of Purusha is seen in Asmita. The reflection of Purusha is seen in Asmita. So this aspect, the reflection of the Purusha as seen in Asmita is called as the cognizer, the grahitra being completely absorbed by the mind field. Okay, so the mind stability on them and merging with that, with those means, that means it remains concentrated on them and takes their form. This is called as samapatti. Okay, so I repeat it once again. When the mind field is colored by an object, that object is nothing but the object of our meditation. So the mind field appears to take on that form of the object. For example, the mind field is colored by an object called Purusha. One is contemplating on Purusha. The mind field appears to take on the form of that object. Of what? Of Purusha. So what the sutra is trying to emphasize is it is all about the grahitra samapatti. It is giving the importance to the grahitra aspect, not the grahana and grahya. It is trying to emphasize the grahitra samapatti, which is the mind trying to cognize and appear as if it is in the form of Purusha. So that is what it is trying to say. The reflection of the Purusha is seen in Asmita, and this reflection is that of the Purusha, who is ever free, who's not bound by anything. The Purusha is nothing but the consciousness principle that we all know. So this is what it means. Is that clear? The grahitra, grahana and grahyeshu. Grahitra is the cognizer or the one who grasps. Grahana is the instrument that is used for grasping. Grahyeshu is the object that is to be grasped. Okay. So grahitru here, the example is Purusha. Grahana is our sense organs, and grahya are the objects or the alambhanas that we use in our meditation. Okay, so what is the chitta trying to do in this sutra? The chitta is trying to merge with the object of meditation. Okay, I just took the example of Purusha, but it could be any object that one can start contemplating upon. It could be starting from the Savitarka Samadhi, where we understood that it starts off with the gross elements and moves up to the subtler aspects, and then goes all the way to Prakriti, which is Alinga, right? So we can take any of those objects as contemplation, objects of contemplation, which are nothing but grahya. Okay, the sense organs that we use for contemplation are called as grahana. Okay, so this is about chittas merging with the object. Clear with this? It is a little tricky, but if you try to understand the three concepts, grahitru, grahana, and grahya, these three aspects, if they are clear, you'll be able to answer the questions related to this sutra. Okay. Now, we are going into the 42nd sutra, which talks about the Savitarka Samadhi. Now, what is Savitarka Samadhi? We have understood that Savitarka Samadhi is the Samadhi that is achieved by the contemplation of the gross aspects, right? So this sutra talks in detail about Savitarka Samadhi. Let's see what it says. Tatra Shabda Artha Jnana. There are these three aspects. Tatra Shabda Artha Jnana. Vikalpai Sankirna Savitarka Samapattihi. Now let's see the meaning of each of the words in the sutra. Tatra is among those. Okay, among those, what? Among these three. Among Shabda, Artha, and Jnana. Among these three. Vikalpai. Vikalpai is imaginary cognition that one creates. Sankirna. Sankirna is getting alloyed or mixed. So what gets mixed? The Shabda, Artha, and Jnana. These three aspects get mixed in the mind and create an imaginary cognition. So that cognition, which is accompanied by those gross aspects or the gross thoughts, is called as Savitarka Samapattihi. So this is the detailed understanding. What is Samapatti? The attainment of a particular state of consciousness. It is the attainment of Savitarka Samadhi. Okay. Now, what is happening in Savitarka Samadhi is there is a commingling or mixing or becoming an alloy of what? Of the Shabda, Artha, and Jnana. Shabda is nothing but the word. Artha is the meaning of that word, the meaning that it signifies. Jnana is nothing but the knowledge that accrues from that particular Shabda and Artha. Okay, these three aspects create an imaginary cognition. Okay, these three aspects get mixed and create an imaginary cognition. That cognition is called as Savitarka Samapatti. Okay, now going into a little more detail about this. So here, the word, which is Shabda, the object. For example, we take cow. Cow is a sound, right? It is a syllable. It's a sound that is coming out of the apparatus called speech, right? So that is a word. What is the object? The actual animal or the organism which has four legs, a particular structure with two horns and a tail, and such features, such attributes is the object. And the knowledge that we have of that object and the word, all these three aspects are considered to be different aspects, right? We are talking about the word, the object, and the knowledge of these things. So these three things are actually different, but in Savitarka Samadhi, the Shabda Artha Jnana gets mixed, and that mixture creates an imaginary cognition in the head. That imaginary cognition is called as Savitarka Samapattihi. Okay. So the word could be the sound. It could have some high and low notes, and the pitch might vary. Okay, the word might be grasped with a sense of hearing. So when somebody says cow, what is the sense of what is the sense organ that comes to action? Your sense of hearing. So here the it is grasped with a sense of hearing, and where does it dwell? So in the speech of the person who's trying to say that particular word. Okay, so this word, you see, is belonging to different aspects like the sound, the sense with which it is, the grasping with which it happens, like the hearing ability with which it is grasped, and the point from where it is actually coming out, it is manifesting, which is the sense of speech. So this is called the I can say the manifestation of that word, the word coming out. But it doesn't indicate that it is the actual cow. It is not representing the actual cow. It is just the word. Okay, it is not the cow which is seen in the pasture or the field. It is just the word that is coming out through these apparatus, and one is able to say that word and the other is able to hear that word. That is very different from the object. So the word or the sound that is coming out is very different from the object. What is the object? The object has a particular dimension, right? It has certain qualities. It denotes a particular species, a cow. So that object is experienced with a sense of touch, with a sense of sight, and also we know that cow probably might be living in a cattle shed or might be in a pasture or a field, right? So these are the attributes associated with the actual object, which is very different from that of the word. Getting it? So I'm trying to help you understand the difference between Shabda, Artha, and Jnana. Okay, now word and the object are different. I think this much you could understand. And the knowledge, which is the jnana aspect. Jnana is actually the sattvic vritti of the buddhi. So how does jnana get created? Because of the sattva of the buddhi. Okay, it has the attribute of elucidation or and also formlessness. So knowledge, can you think of a form? Knowledge does not have a form. You can just cognize it. You can just elucidate it in your head. So that is the aspect of the sattvic vritti of buddhi. So knowledge has that quality. Knowledge has that characteristic where it is a sattvic vritti of buddhi, and it has the attributes of elucidation, which is kind of creating some kind of meaning in your head, and formlessness. It is actually does not carrying any form or dimensions. It is something that is getting created in your buddhi, and that resides or dwells in your mind field. So you see now the object, the word, and the knowledge, the jnana aspect are all three different things, right? They are not one and the same. They have different aspects or attributes which relate to them. But in Savitarka Samapatti or Savitarka Samadhi, what is happening is there is a vikalpa. There is a vikalpa that is getting created. Now, what is that kind of vikalpa? We are trying to mix all these three. The yogi who's in Savitarka Samapatti is trying to mix all these three and create an erroneous illusion in the mind where the object, word, and knowledge appear to be the same, and they cause the identities of each of this to be intermingled. Okay, then when you understand this, this is again not a proper form of samadhi, right? This is the first step towards samadhi. That is why it is talking about the grosser aspects and how one enters into the state of savitarka samapatti. Okay, So each of these, the word, object, and knowledge can actually take its own path, right? Can take its own path of development, okay, and can undergo independent changes or mutations after that. But because of the understanding error or the vikalpa that is getting created in the mind is mixing up all these three aspects. Okay. So when the yogi has reached some kind of mastery, samapatti with regards to them, the awareness of the object, in the sense that if you take the example of a cow, um, such an imagination imposes itself in the samadhi wisdom. Okay, so if he might be cognizing a cow, and that kind of image will come upon as samadhi wisdom or samadhi prajna. Okay, this wisdom will revolve as intertwined with the alternating sense of the word, the object, also the knowledge that it is deriving. Okay, so this intermingling or intertwining of the word, the object, and the knowledge, okay, that imaginary cognition is called as savitarka samapatti. Is this clear? Is this clear? Any
Little,
doubts in the sutra?
little confusing, ma'am, but just trying to understand. So the yogi is doing samapatti on the sound, meaning, wisdom,
The
and trying to
yogi is,
have a deeper understanding of the vastu, ma'am. Is that how we understand?
yes, he's trying to have a deeper understanding of the object. But here, what is happening is, because this is in the grosser level, right? Savitarka, you remember, we thought of the Savitarka Samadhi, we understood based on the Sankhya philosophy that Savitarka Samapatti or Samadhi is related with the 16 gross elements. Do you remember that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So you see, when a person is starting to think about contemplating or dwelling in Savitarka Samapatti, he's trying to cognize these aspects which are actually different, but he's trying to intermingle those three aspects. Intermingle what? Intermingle the word, the object, and the knowledge related to that. Okay, because he's still not clear at that point, but he is able to cognize something out of that intermingling. Okay, he's trying to
Savitarka means
cognize.
what, ma'am? Savitarka means vitarka means argument, no, ma'am. So what, like?
Savitarka, we have seen that Savitarka Samadhi don't take that meaning of Vitarka, which means argument. That is not the way we understood it. If you remember, when I was explaining the Sankhya, Savitarka is the Samadhi that is accompanied by Vitarka, which relates with the 16 Visheshas. What were the 16 Visheshas? The 16 Visheshas were nothing but the 16 gross elements. Do you remember that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I remember.
So you have to relate it in that sense, not in the sense of argument. Okay, we are trying to concentrate more on the aspect of the grosser objects or the elements which are gross. And as the samadhi steps progress into finer and finer aspects, you see those gross objects are going away, and the yogi is able to progress into the subtler aspects like ahankara, then buddhi, which is lingamatra, then asmita, and he's finally going into the understanding of prakriti. Getting it?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
here, because this is the very first step that is leading to samadhi, very first step, which is the savitarka. Okay, the vitarka accompanied samadhi. Vitarka accompanied samadhi is the yogi is still trying to understand what it is. He's gotten an understanding, but that understanding is still erroneous. It has vikalpa in it, imaginary cognition, which is wrong. So that is what the sutra is trying to clear out. Savitarka samadhi is where a yogi is trying to intermingle the shabda, artha and jnana. And he's creating an imaginary cognition out of these, which might be sometimes the shabda, which might sometimes be the artha, or sometimes also be the jnana. So he is actually concentrating on all these aspects one after the other, or probably first the shabda, then the artha and the jnana, something like that. And he's getting into the state of savitarka samadhi, which is vitarka accompanied samadhi. So this vitarka accompanied samadhi relates to the 16 visheshas. That is the most important point. You have to remember that. Okay. So he is dwelling on the grosser aspects. He is dwelling on the grosser aspects because he has just started his practices of samadhi, which is called as the savitarka samadhi, vitarka accompanied samadhi. Okay, is that clear? Okay. So today we'll stop it here because I also find it a little difficult to explain without the whiteboard. Maybe the Grahitra, Grahana and Grahya, the concept would have been nicer if I would have used the whiteboard. But nevertheless, we'll try to repeat this a little bit tomorrow also. I'll try to do that tomorrow also. Now we'll do the chanting. Okay. We'll continue with the chanting. Please open your 4 chapters on freedom. Is Jitendra sir there? Sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Sir. So we'll stop the recording here for the explanation part and start another recording for the chanting.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Thank you.